Hi guys, Ed Haynes here, bringing you a little video on how to effectively set up a document using Google Docs, which will allow you to manage and control your client's assessments and program design. So I'm going to treat this as if you guys have no idea how to use Google Docs. So the first thing you need to do is obviously set up a Gmail, which can allow you to get into Gmail. Now within Gmail you get something called Google Drive. And the way you can access that is you click this kind of this whatever the hell this is, click on that, you're going to see something called Drive. When we come within Drive, as I've been using this for a while, I already have some documents. This will typically be a blank open template. So from here it's really important that you guys stay organized with all your clients. So as you'll see, for me I have something called CFPT documents. That's where we keep things like the group program templates. These are my personal training clients and remote clients, and this is just documents I keep for myself, work or non-work related. So, because we're talking about managing our own clients here, what I want you guys to do is set up your own folder called clients. So, just quickly on how to do that, you're going to click on New, and then you're going to start a new folder. Now from here we can call it what we want, but let's say we're going to call it clients, because I've already got this. I may as well have to call it something else. New clients, and you'll find that this will save and open up a new folder. Alright, so what we're really concerned with today, let's delete that, is how to set up an effective Google document for your client that you can then share with your client and share with your fellow colleagues or myself. So if we click in within my folder called clients, you're going to see I have a few little different folders. First being assessments and nutrition, that's nutritional clients I work with. Next is PT clients, next is my remote clients, and then we have training templates. So what I've set up within training templates is something I want you guys all to use for every single one of your clients. And that document is called the client training template. So if I double click this, and I'm going to share this with you guys so you will have it within your Google Drive, you're going to see a new document open up, and within that document you have a bunch of different tabs. And you're going to eventually have one of these set up for every single one of your personal training and remote training clients. Let's close that for now. So let's go back to clients. Let's say I'm starting a new remote program with someone. And my client is called, his name is Shingo. So I'm going to set up a new folder for Shingo. And you're going to see, sorry, this was something I was playing around with earlier. You can see Shingo appears on one of my folders under one of my clients. Now when I click on the folder, obviously there's going to be nothing there because I haven't started any documents yet. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go back to our training templates folder. We're going to make a copy of the client training template. Make a copy. The copy should appear straight away underneath. Then I'm simply going to move this, I'm going to find Shingo under remote programs. Shingo, move here. So let's go back to Shingo's folder, remote programs, Shingo, copy of client training template. Now I'm going to open this up. Now straight away I want to make sure I rename this to be Shingo training template. So Matt's going to make sure I don't mix it up with anyone else. Okay, so within this document you're going to find a bunch of different tabs. Now for most of these I'm not going to have to talk about it too much because it's all stuff that you guys have learned and that we've reinforced from the OPEX CCP assessment and program design module. So the very first tab you're going to see is called Skype and meeting notes. Basically every time you have a catch up with a client, if it's a sit down, if it's over Skype, if it's a remote client or whatever it is, I think it's really important that you guys make notes on those meetings and you keep all those notes within one central place. So for example, if I have a meeting with Shingo today, I'm going to have the date down as the 17th of July. Hope that's right. And meeting notes, I'm going to have here, it's our first assessment. Shingo is not very good at deadlifting, for example. He's actually pretty good. Okay, moving on to the next tab. We have a sheet called ongoing numbers. Ongoing numbers is pretty straightforward. There's a bunch of stuff on here. Basically, this is your central place you might come back to on a daily or weekly or monthly basis. Basically, when your clients are hitting new PRs, when you're getting new assessments in on your clients or you're reassessing, it's really important that we're coming back and updating this central sheet. It's just going to make it really, really easy for you to look at. So the first one, you have body composition. This is the skin calipers you're taking, the body fat tests. Next one is you have your structural ratios with a bunch of absolute strength movements that we typically assess. Moving down, we have our physical assessments. Then we have our movement analysis. I'm going to go into all this in a bit. Then we have our work capacity tests. So basically just general notes that you want to easily and quickly access on a regular basis, I would be putting into the spreadsheet. Each of these little sections is going to be broken down in these tabs down here below. So the next one is body composition. So basically it's taking what you saw in the last page into a bit more detail. Now a lot of this stuff I've just taken from the CCP assessment module that they handed out to us. And I've just put it into a Google Doc and made a few adjustments. So if you click on body comp for your client, you're going to see, first we've got some notes, things to remember when we take body fat tests, so you don't have to keep on referring back to the same piece of paper. And then you're going to have basically where we write our scores for our clients. And again, just more notes and a little bit more detail. Next one, we have the physical assessment. So as you know, we have our OPEX physical assessment that we take our clients through. And of course, if you want to add things into that, more than welcome to do so. Just make sure you're making a little notes column somewhere that you can access. Basically, this is just really easy that we can now centrally access all the documents for one client on one spreadsheet. So for example, you know the double leg movement assessment, we have it all up here. You just make notes and observations. Then you have your single leg assessments, upper body push, so on and so forth. Next, we have our movement analysis document, and again with lots of notes in terms of what you're looking for when you assess these people. Next one is really important, especially if you're working with performance-based athletes. It's basically your lifts and ratios spreadsheet. Now all the formulas are in here. So let's say, for example, we're working with Shingo, and I've taken Shingo through a 3-week testing phase where I've collected some really good data on him in terms of the absolute strength numbers. So let's use an example. Let's say Shingo's back squat, best of my knowledge, is, firstly his body weight on a good day, 79 kg. And obviously we can put in the date. Now in his testing, he tested a front squat and he hit 100 kg. Now you're going to see here when we look to the next column, the first one is we're comparing front squat to his back squat, FS/BS. And you're going to see that what we're looking for, if I take that out, is that his front squat should be 85% of his back squat. So let's say he front squatted 100 kg, and he, oh God, sorry, I've made a mistake here. I thought that said body weight. Let's go back a step. We're talking about back squat. Let's say Shingo back squatted 150 kg. His front squat should be 85% of his back squat, and in fact, his front squat is actually 66.67%. So he's 18.33% off where he needs to be if we're looking at structural ratios and structural balance. Let's say Shingo's deadlift is 120 kg. Now, as you can see, we're comparing his deadlift to his back squat, so this number against this number. And what we're looking for is we want his deadlift to be 125% of his back squat. In actual fact, it's 80% of his back squat. This is actually quite accurate for Shingo. So he's actually 45% off where he needs to be. So when you're collecting data, and it might just be in a console or went through a testing block, I would just be filling this in. And just as you get new numbers in and new rep maxes for your clients, you simply just update the spreadsheet. And at the end of the day, it's going to give you a real good picture of what potentially needs to be prioritized in their training. Gymnastics pieces, obviously just keeping this up to date and chucking in numbers is also going to be very important when it comes to painting a picture of where your athlete is at. Okay, next, really important, we have training templates. So this is something I've recently adapted based on what I used to do. It's basically an effective way of how to map out your client's training week. So this is already done for you. You're going to see in the first column, it's going to say week beginning, and then it's going to have the days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And at the end, nice and clear, you have something called a note section. So the reason I like a spreadsheet versus working just off one Google Doc is that we can really easily make notes in here, and then we can simply drag or copy and paste to replicate that week, and then it makes it really easier for us to A, see the whole week laid out in front of you, but B, also to make small minor changes based on the dose response and the training response they get from it. So let's play this out. So firstly, we're going to set out the week beginning. So if I have a look at dates, tomorrow's going to be 18th of July. So I might get 18/7/2016. That's going to be a Monday. The week after that, sorry, I have to get my calendar up here, is going to be the 25th 7th 2016. And what I can actually do, rather than having to type all this out, I should be able to. Nope, that didn't work. Good. Sorry. Let's just manually input this for now. 1st, the 8th, 2016. And then we have the 8th, 2000. Sorry guys, I'm not really good with dates. Okay. So firstly, because you're going to be accessing a spreadsheet a lot, it's really important that, and I think it's really important to keep it looking nice and sexy. So firstly, I'm going to hit horizontal line, make sure it's all left justified. Okay, so basically I've set up potentially 4 weeks of training here. Now let's say the focus for Shingo for the next 4 weeks is, we're going to say that we're going to have Wednesday as a rest day, and I know Sunday is going to be his rest day. Now, let's say we're doing an absolute strength phase because we know that Shingo's deadlifting is a priority and we need to bring that up. So let's just map out a real simple training week. A work is going to be deadlift, 5 times 5 at a tempo of 3, 1, 1, 1. Rest as needed, build. Now, really important is that when we're doing program design work, we want to keep everything within one cell. So if I hit enter right now, you're going to notice that it takes me down to the next cell. Now that's not really what I want. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click back on that. Now, if you guys are using Macs, which I think we all are, if we simply hit Command and hold Command and hit enter, it returns us to a new line. Really important there. I'll type it out for you. If you hit Command plus enter, it will take you to a new line. So if, let's say for Shingo's B work, we're going to do some posterior chain work again. We're going to do a GHD hip extension, 4x12 at a 3, 1, 3, 2 tempo, resting 60 seconds. Now notice that the cells are wrapped. So if I hit this, you'll notice they'll kind of fly out into the next cell. That's not what we want. So I've already wrapped this all for you. So it basically sits in one cell. Now what we can do, what's really easy is that, let's say we're going to map out this first week, and let's say I want to get 2 weeks of training done for Shingo. So all I need to do is I'm just going to highlight this week, hit this little square button in the corner, and I'm just going to drag it down, and it's going to replicate his week. Alright, so let's say we're going to create a fairly simple linear progression here, where we're trying to overload him because we want to increase the amount of volume in his training by lifting more load. Let's say we go to a 5x4 and we go to 4x10. Cool, and we're happy with that. I'm just then going to replicate it again, and let's just keep it real linear and do the same thing, 5x3. Let's keep it at 4x10. And let's say for argument's sake we do it again. We might create some form of progression like 3, 3, 2, 2, 1. I want to build to a single. So on and so forth. Now, you'll notice in the last column, and of course we can do this for every single day, that's how I'd recommend doing it. In the last column, you're going to notice something called note section. So basically, I'm going to come back to this in 1 second, but when we take this information and we put it into Shingo's Google Doc, when I can refer to his Google Doc and see how his lifting has gone for the week, I can make simple notes here. So it's really important that we're putting a date on this. So if it's the 18th, so we're saying July 18. Let's say, for example, this is July 25th, sorry, so on and so forth. So we can basically map out Shingo's entire training program on this spreadsheet. Now, the next thing we want to do is I don't really want Shingo to have to look at this huge spreadsheet because it's very confusing for him, and it's not a very good way for him to record his information. You guys, just by the way, can kind of customize this, drag cells to be as big as you want to, just for ease of, for personal preference. I quite like to have my rest days small because they're not very important, but I like to be able to see everything on one page, so I can actually zoom out a little bit as well to make everything a bit smaller. Okay, so this is where I'm basically going to design Shingo's template every single time. Now, I'm going to go back to Shingo's folder. Now, I'm going to create a new document here, and this new document is going to be a Google Doc this time instead of a Google Sheet. So I'm going to start a new Google Doc, and this is going to be called Shingo iTrain Program. Now this is where Shingo is going to be seeing all his training on a weekly basis, or however you choose to send it to him. It might be daily, it might be monthly. This is where Shingo is going to see his training. This is where he's going to update his Google document. So if I go back to my template and I've designed, let's say, just the first day, Monday the 18th, for Shingo, all I then need to do is I'm just going to copy and paste, copy, go back to Shingo's Google Doc, I'm going to paste. So Shingo is going to see his first day of programming here. Sorry, excuse the typo. Now, what we need to do here, you're going to see this button here on the right called Share. I'm going to click Share. I'm going to type in Shingo's email. And remember, if he doesn't have a Gmail account, he needs to set that up. And Shingo, he does, I think, but it's not on my system. I'm going to type Shingo's email in there. Then I'm going to hit Send. And that's going to be accessible for Shingo on his Google Doc. So he doesn't need to worry about anything at the start of every week or however often you choose to send it. Shingo will have his training program written for the week there. Now all Shingo has to do is that he accesses and opens his Google Doc, which he can do from his phone, and then he can record his notes. And I always like my clients to do this in different color at the end of each thing. So his deadlift, I've asked him to build. He might go 100, 110, 115, 120, 125 kg. And then hip extension does the same thing. Now for me, when I come back to writing Shingo's next training program, or if I'm referring back to his Google Doc on a weekly basis, I simply come back to my template. I look at Shingo's thing here and I can see, right, he built to 125. I might make a note here in the notes section, built to 125 kg deadlift. Continue with linear strength progression, for example. And basically this note section is going to be really easy for me to kind of refer back to whenever I need to have a look at his deadlifts. So I can even hit something like Control F, hit deadlift, and it will bring up all his deadlifting results. So basically what we can do, we can actually map out an entire training program. So let's say, for example, we're 16 weeks out from the Open. We can create 16 weeks of this, copy and paste them all down here, make sure the dates are correct, and basically create a peaking structure. And you guys can play around with formatting in terms of colors, so on and so forth. And eventually you're going to have a really comprehensive and detailed training template with all of your clients' training programs that you can refer back to all the time. And on a separate document, you're going to have, and your client's going to have, a document which is going to have all their details in terms of what they've lifted and how they train. So really simply put, when your client hits new PRs or anything through here, we can just go back into our template. Let's say we can go back to our ongoing numbers or our lifts and ratios and just update that as we go on, as we move on with the client. All right, guys, I think that's enough. I hope that was fairly easy to follow. Apologize if it wasn't. Please come to me with questions if you have any. Thank you very much.